Usually, we start by covering the news coverage of a story that's still breaking. Sometimes, though, it's worth waiting for a story to play out, then examining what's been reported in the aftermath. That school shooting in Florida happened more than 3 weeks ago. 17 dead, 14 of them students. Unlike some previous school shootings in the U.S., the survivors did not shy away from the cameras. They went looking for them. The teenagers used the plentiful airtime they got to push for tougher gun control laws. And they found themselves taking on not just politicians, but one of the most potent lobby groups around, the National Rifle Association, the NRA. And as the attention of the mainstream news media turned elsewhere, as it always does, the argument goes on, the students, along with gun control advocates, slugging it out with the NRA and its backers. Our starting point this week is the media space in which most of this fight is now being waged online.
I'm a mom, and just like millions of other women, that's why I own guns.
NRA TV isn't necessarily hugely popular.
Cut the crap. Fight this violence of lies with the clenched fist of truth.
But when they do put out a message,
fighting for every inch of our freedom,
it is so good.
We demand the freedom to defend our families.
I watch those videos, and by the end of it, I'm like, I need to go get me a gun, right?
That's the idea. NRA TV wants more Americans to buy guns. It goes after those who stand in their way. And that, the channel would have you believe, includes the U.S. mainstream news media.
The mainstream media love mass shootings.
This video, posted 7 days after the massacre in Florida, did not target politicians or activists advocating gun control. It was devoted in its entirety to the way the news media cover the issue.
The mainstream media just put out the casting call for the next mass shooter.
Well, as a conservative who has spent much of my career condemning the liberal mainstream news media in this country, I think that philosophically, the NRA is right to do it. Now, do they overdo it? Probably so.
Tragedy is their business model.
Mainly because when you don't like the message, you attack the messenger.
To those who stain honest reporting with partisanship.
It plays very well. It is red meat to the conservative base.
It's in the NRA's interest to convince their user base that the mainstream media can't be trusted.
The hatred, the pettiness, the fake news. We are done with your agenda to undermine voters' will.
Because if their users mistrust the mainstream media, they're going to be more likely to listen to NRA as a source for their news.
The first mass school shooting of the modern era in Columbine, Colorado, took place in 1999. Since then, the set-piece coverage has developed along lines like these. The mainstream media provide initial wall-to-wall reporting, while endeavoring, they promise, to respect the wishes of the bereaved. The identity of the perpetrator is revealed, their social media accounts scoured for motives and ideologies. The gun control debate rises to the top of the news agenda temporarily, and American legislators, scores of whom accept donations from the NRA, offer tweeted thoughts and prayers, as opposed to meaningful change, as the story recedes from view. This time around, however, there were some wild cards in the mix. Surviving students who, through their savvy communication skills and social media accounts, made their voices heard and drove the news coverage in a way that no one at Columbine could back in the day.
These are students that were raised with the expectation that a mass shooting could happen to them. They have watched other shootings happen on TV. They have grown up with this as a real possibility in a way that in 1999 was not the case. So they responded in a much different way. It's something that they have studied and thought about. So when it happened to them, they were ready to speak and they were prepared to speak.
The kids nowadays have practice in performing to wider audiences.
We call BS!
They are on social media constantly. They know exactly how to talk to wider audiences, exactly how much they have to be informed in order to talk to wider audiences. So it's something that most of us don't actually know how to do, and I think that played a huge part in this.
I mean, these kids at the end of the day that the shooting happened had already mobilized an entire movement, and that's something that we've never seen before. We've certainly seen people advocate for gun control and, stronger regulatory measures in the past, but to have it done so outspokenly by survivors in such an immediate way hasn't really happened.
The students propelled themselves into a position of prominence and landed on a national stage, a CNN town hall debate on the issue of gun control.
Why do we have to march on Washington just to save innocent lives?
Critics on the right accused CNN of exploiting the students, saying the time was not right. The wounds were still too fresh to talk about gun control. An argument somewhat akin to saying that after a terror attack, news outlets should not discuss national security.
CNN doing the television town hall and providing a forum for the students was absolutely not exploitation. I really am bothered by the notion that students advocating for their own right to safety in the school is exploitation.
Senator Rubio, can you tell me right now that you will not accept a single donation from the NRA in the future?
It was a staggering moment of television where you had politicians who take NRA money like Marco Rubio, and you had the NRA spokesperson, Dana Loesch, actually have to face student survivors in real time on television.
Conspiracy theories born on the internet, one of which suggested some of the students were imposters, actors infiltrating the story, made their way onto mainstream right-wing outlets like Fox News.
And the allegation has been that they are in some way in contact with organized anti-gun groups and people.
Exploitation by the liberal media, outright fraud on the part of some students. Conspiracy theories were offered on them both.
Part of the students' power is that they are young, that they experienced this firsthand. It gives them a moral authority, and the best way to undercut that is by undermining their credibility. There's been all kinds of conspiracy theories. They've doctored yearbooks to make it seem like the students don't actually go to Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, that they go to another school. There was a theory floated that one of the students, David Hogg, was actually a 26-year-old felon from California.
And this narrative made it onto Fox News. In fact, this narrative made it onto Fox News several times, to the point that other outlets like CNN and MSNBC had to talk about this conspiracy.
These people saying this is absolutely disturbing, and I'm not an actor in any sense, way, shape, or form.
I would say if you're able to make it onto the 3 biggest cable networks in US television, your conspiracy theory is wildly successful.
Now this is just crazy. It's absolutely nuts. There's no logic nor evidence to support it. But that, unfortunately, doesn't seem to matter in this very strange world we're now living in, because people will believe whatever they want to believe. And it certainly doesn't matter to the media outlet who is selling the conspiracy theory. And it was an indication of just how broken our news media in this country is, especially when it comes to partisan outlets like Fox News Channel or others that try to emulate being Fox News Channel on the internet.
So where does the story go from here? Probably nowhere. It does what all school shooting stories have done, with NRA TV chipping away at the credibility of the liberal media.
With every broadcast,
conspiracy theorists selling their wares in the right-wing bubble, and a little help from Fox News and a few others, the story just fades away. Their social media skills and powers of persuasion served the students well, extending the story's lifespan and likely changing the template of the coverage of such tragedies in the future. What they haven't changed is the outcome. Maybe next time.